evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that I'm here tonight for the opening of the Greenpoint Film Festival. You know, I'm a native Greenpointer. Well, actually, I just told my friend sitting next to me that I was born in Williamsburg on South 2nd Street. So I'm not a native Greenpointer. But we did, when I was 13, we moved to the country, to Greenpoint. And so I feel like I have, and actually, if you ask anybody, they'll tell you we're not in Greenpoint now, we're in Williamsburg, because in Karen Park, there's a dividing line. But that's only up to you and up to them to decide whether it is or it isn't. It is. It is. It's almost official. But I have to say that it has been 8 years since Rosa came to my office and asked for my help to get this started. And little did I know and behold what it's become. But you know now that Greenpoint and Williamsburg are not only the hippest neighborhoods in New York City, but they're also the center of arts and cultural life that we can enjoy. And it's really great that we have this film festival every year that Woven Spaces as well as Rosa put on, because it just goes to show how much of the art culture of filmmaking is on stage for all of us to see, with local filmmakers producing them. I just want to give you a little history about me. It doesn't really matter much for tonight, but you know, we're quickly becoming the Hollywood East here in this neighborhood. We have Steiner Studios, and as you see, one of the sponsors is Broadway Stages. A lot of people don't know who they are, but they produce some of the most major television shows there in Greenpoint that are, you know, Blue Bloods is produced there, The Good Wife, for example. And so we really are a filmmaking community. And, but it all starts here with all the local filmmakers. They get their stuff shown to you, and you're here to see it. And let's get on with the show.
How about it for these filmmakers? Yeah. Ready to do a rap show. The first film we saw was about the extremely moving paintings of Brenda's. Personally, I found it very difficult to watch because my father passed away in January of Parkinson's. And I just spent about 2 or 3 years doing caregiving in Western Canada. So it really hit close to home. Because I've had my own experience with, well, family members, but, you know, the elderly that are going through health issues and in their last phase of life, that kind of thing. So besides that, I really enjoyed the painting. And can you talk a little bit about the connection with the camera? What was it? The Camera Lucida? Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So the device that I was using, that I was looking at people through, like that close. Okay. It's called a Camera Lucida, and it's a lens on a stick that actually it's from the Renaissance, and Caravaggio used it, lots of artists use it. I got it from David Hockney. He started experimenting with it in the 80s, and I was in the studio when he got his. And what it does is it just gives you, it's not a camera at all, it just allows you to do quick outlines and get proportions correct, or kind of close to correct. In this case, most of my subjects were moving targets, so actually it was really hard to use it because they could not stay still or they didn't want to, but it just gives you a quick start. It also helps me because I'm dyslexic, so I have a lot of trouble with reversing lines in my head, like they go from right to left, so it keeps me, if I can get that initial sort of outline down, I don't have to worry about perceptual issues with dyslexia. So.
Right. And I was telling you earlier, I love your Stella McCartney shoes.
Thank you. Here's my shoes. My daughter
They're
picked them.
exciting. And Rodney, give him the microphone for a second. Are you still motorcycling?
Not today, but hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where were you motorcycling in that?
And that was at the border of North Carolina, I think, in Tennessee.
Is your studio up there?
No, I just gone down for a few days for motorcycle riding.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, my studio's not there.
Oh, yeah. Where is your studio?
The Greenpoint.
Oh, okay, so you're a Greenpoint artist.
10 minutes walk from here.
Is that kind of a tie-in that everybody's sort of agreeing somewhat? Well, you're in Williamsburg, right?
Well, I'm on the borderline.
Right. So how long have you been in Greenpoint?
22 years.
Wow.
In the same studio.
Amazing. And do you have a show coming up?
I have a show opening right now tonight, and I can't be at it because I'm here. It's a group show. It's a 20th anniversary show for Miyako Yoshinaga Gallery in Chelsea, who was my first dealer. So I'll go tomorrow and have a look.
Right. That's great. And Brenda, let's talk to some of the filmmakers. So tell us about your role in everything.
Well, I've known Brenda for many years, and she's been telling me and getting our whole neighborhood to be painted for all kinds of reasons. And I just happen to connect so well. I love old people, and I, grew up with my grandfather living with us, and I just love those stories. And it's really amazing. She came with I just have a little footage, but she shot a lot of it on iPhone, and when you put the footage in water, it's like putting those little sea things in water and they expand.
Mm-hmm. Sea monkeys.
So it's like, I thought it was a little footage, and then it's like 3-4 gigs of footage, so 100 paintings.
Wow.
For the 100th anniversary, and I feel like I was editing 100 hours a day.
I did 100 portraits last summer, so it's a lot more than people think. 100 paintings is a lot of paintings.
It's a lot of paintings.
Once you get into it.
And it's a lot of editing with every person
boy.
have a story of their whole life, so it's
That's
hard to
incredible.
make an art. But
And before you fall asleep, let's...
I'm not falling asleep, it's just how I look.
Oh, okay. Here, talk about your stuff.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's a hard thing to do sometimes to get out at night, and it's a great crowd, and we all appreciate your being here. I've been shooting films on artists since the latter part of the 80s, 1986 I started shooting. And my subject is only artists, mostly painters, a few sculptors. The artists, the mode that I like, I was interested in shooting artists from the first generation, abstract expressionism, which I did, and I got a lot of second generation abstract expressionists. Now, all those have died or passed away, and so artists that have that aesthetics, that quality in their work, it doesn't have to be gestural, but they have that quality. That's how I choose an artist that I want to film. Like the one with Rodney, we started shooting in April of last year, and we finished shooting in December. And to let you know, there's probably about 300 hours of editing in this 29-minute piece. So it's very intensive. And I'm also a painter. So that's how I got involved in making films about artists. It's very easy for me to go into the studio and start talking to the artist. They usually don't like for me to bring people, and that's what I did. That's what I did.
So we have a lot of high achievers up here. Everybody's making tons and tons of paintings and thousands of hours of film, just so we can sit here and enjoy it. I'm serious. It's touching to me, because I do a lot of that kind of stuff myself, and it's nice to see people that I can relate to. There's about 5 people I can relate to on the planet. These are some of them. Yeah, exactly. Just wanted to talk to Brenda. Pass her the mic for a second there. Yeah. Where did you get your red suit?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Okay. Everybody coordinated. Red in the middle.
Yeah, we're a really good bunch.
Good-looking group.
Yeah.
So I will ask the audience to ask a few questions because I know you have lots of things you want to know about. But first off, Brenda, I talk about the David Hockney connection, your connection to David Hockney, because you're an interesting painter. But do you also do other paintings other than portrait style? Because I'm just getting to know your work.
Well, mostly I started painting portraits in the late 80s, actually kind of as a joke. Jonathan Lasker suggested that I do a portrait show, and I just thought, okay, I'll try it, and I painted all these bald men, and at that time, there were not that many portrait painters. There was just David Hockney, Chuck Close, and Alex Katz, and I had that show, and it actually worked, and it turned me into a portrait painter. So I've been painting portraits for a long time. And right now, but I knew David.
By the way, I'm not trying to justify you via David Hockney. You had just mentioned David Hockney, so I was curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, because there were not that many portrait painters in those days, I gravitated toward the generation that was older than me and got to know them. So I painted David Hockney a couple times. He's painted me. He's painted my daughter. His printer is my daughter's donor. My daughter has a donor because she's I'm a single parent by choice. So it's kind of all in the family. But anyway, that aside. But I really do two kinds of projects. I do these portrait projects where I'm working with the other. Like my next project, I'll be working with in the end of May, I'll be working with migrant workers in Sonoma who were affected by the fire. So these portrait projects that I do are very involved with community service and finding out stories, people who are underrepresented. But then on the other hand, I do these fancy portraits, like I just got a commission from the World Bank, and I just finished something with Yale. So it's kind of like I'm Robin Hood. I'm doing these fancy projects, and then I'm doing these community service projects.
Question.
Yes.
How did you get involved with the project that we saw in the film with the elderly models?
Well, Susan, who's in the audience, she's from the Dürfner Judaism Museum.
Give Susan a
And
hand. Give
here's
Susan
Susan
a
over
hand.
here. She's amazing, by the way, and it was so hard to put together 100 people. And,
Right.
I mean, people were dying as, I mean, it's, people were over 100, so it's just organizing 100 people for 100 sessions.
Right.
But they were having their 100th anniversary, and she invited me to do the project and have a show there for their 100th anniversary.
I see.
And so that's why I went up there,
Right.
and it was intense.
Fantastic. Rodney, let me ask you a few questions and then we'll get back to the other two. So you're using an awful lot of paint. You're using an awful lot of oil.
Unfortunately, that's true.
What got you started using that large? By the way, Andy Warhol was my donor on his son. How much paint do you use on any given day?
A big painting could cost me $1,000 in paint.
Right. I wasn't exactly asking about the cost of it, although that's a good.
It's $5 a big tube, so you can
Because you were picking up a tube of oil paint and you were just a whole tube in like 3 seconds. Come on.
I'm afraid that's the truth. I wish it was
So
otherwise.
what is it about that that's so important to make your paintings what they are?
Because in that way I can work very quickly because I'm not thinning the paint out. It has body. If I put it somewhere, it stays there. If I don't like the yellow and I want to make it red, I can put some red over it and it becomes red. And I can keep on going.
Right.
That's the only reason I don't do it because I want to spend money.
I see. Well, I saw a picture of Picasso that's a famous picture, and he's wearing a cowboy hat, and he has a cap gun in his hand. And I was going to ask you this question, but I'll explain. But he had a cap gun in his hand, and I researched the photo, and it turns out that when people would come to Picasso's studio, whether you like Picasso or not, but when people would come to Picasso's studio, if they asked him what his work was about, he'd put on the hat and take the gun out and start shooting blanks at them.
Good idea.
So, in a certain way, I was going to ask you what your work is about, and maybe maybe it's not about anything. I don't know.
Well, I don't have a gun here, so you can ask.
Right.
People come and ask me that as I sit in the film. I prefer to say to them, spend some time with it
Mhm.
and see if it has an effect on you. I think it's a comment on the human condition, as it says in the film. I think if you spend time with the work, it might have an effect on you, or it might not. It doesn't have to. But that's what I'm trying to do.
Right. Let me ask her a question there at the end. So how did your journey with Brenda's work begin?
Well, there was a lot of decoding people, it's their whole life story. The portraits would take 1 hour to paint, and so each piece of story was 1 hour, but it's like, how do you create an arc, a story, and have some meaning to it that keeps it, growing? And how do you dip in and out of, one of the most profound moments for me was when, she touched the arm of the woman from Auschwitz, and, it's like, I don't know how Brenda can, say things like, oh, can I touch it? I mean, there's an innocence to that spirit that is rare in people that are with, she's really with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's awesome, but it's like, how do you create a whole story and an arc and complete it and have it feel fulfilling and have a meaning? So
Well, I'm usually rather macho, but in that case, I was really, got pretty emotional. Just because of various things that I explained earlier, but I got through it. And then when I got to Rodney's, we were on the motorcycle and things were okay.
pushed over.
Yeah, things were great. We were back to... No, but actually it was very beautiful. It wasn't sad at all. I found it very beautiful. Very important. I think it was a very important thing to do. I think it was a very kind of selfless thing to do and very interesting. There's so much in there that I'm going to have to process in the next.
Well, I think to be life affirming in the end of it, because when you're, following people that are dying and it's end of life, it's hard. But it's
Well, everybody
so
has their own
life-affirming.
experience.
Yeah.
Everybody has an experience with that in their own way. So I wanted to know if the audience had, by the way, I do a party every Tuesday night on the rooftop of the Jane Hotel, which you're all invited to if you can make it. It's from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. every Tuesday in the roof bar of the Jane Hotel. I just thought I would do that just because I'm here. It's easier than sending out 100 emails, which I also do. So can we have some audience questions, seeing as you all enjoyed the films? Anybody have any questions? Oh, there, gentleman up there.
Right up. I'd like to ask the two filmmakers a couple questions real quick, technical aspects of it. What kind of cameras were used? How big were your crews? And what kind of editing software did you use, if I may?
I was using two cameras. One is it's a new camera, the JVC 850. It's a shoulder camera. It only weighs about 12 pounds, so it's new and it's lightweight. It's got a Canon lens. The ratio is 17:1. And the other camera that I use is a handheld camera. It's the Sony it's either P170 or it's the P70. Both of those are really great cameras. Some of the shooting that I did in this film, Rodney, as you know, it necessitates using a smaller camera for some of the angles that you're shooting. Sometimes when you see the steps in, a snap zoom with the lens, I was using the larger camera that has that quality to do that. So, and then I added on with a Media 100. No wait, it's the Final Cut Pro 7. Sorry, it's Final Cut Pro 7, and the other filmmaker.
Thank you.
Oh, hi. Well, Brenda had there's only really 2 days or 2 interviews that were shot with a professional crew with actually good audio and all these other things. But then Brenda set up an iPhone pretty much.
I used an iPhone on a tripod and I operated it with my Apple Watch. So if somebody fell asleep and stopped talking, I could turn it on. But it was really like being like a one-man band. Like I'm painting, interviewing, and filming from my watch, and also texting my daughter on my watch. So it was pretty interesting that it was amazing that Laure could save any of it, because we did not, I didn't even have microphones. Initially, we mic'd one woman who later on quit the project because she thought the mic was looking down her shirt. And so it occurred to me that we should not be micing people. People did not want to be touched. So, and actually with these kinds of projects, if you have a film crew, people do not open up necessarily as much. So the fact that I was alone with them and the iPhone was on a tripod and was not noticeable because I was using the watch, made it more discreet. So,
Right, very good. How about the lovely person right here?
I just wanted to know, Bill, were you on the back of the motorcycle filming while he was driving?
Yeah, I was standing up without a helmet. On the back. Yeah.
I can answer that question.
With my 12-pound camera.
The truth is, I offered him to do that, he was terrified.
Well, that was a mysterious answer. Were you on the back?
Did I do it?
No, that was a GoPro that Michael, Rodney had on his helmet.
I see. Another question? Someone? Anyone? Any question? Oh, over here.
I just have a comment, which is to Brenda and Laure, just that, and I feel like probably most people feel this way, but I was just amazed at the balance you guys achieved between, very heart-wrenching stuff and stuff that made you laugh out loud. And it was like a really wonderful flow throughout the film.
Thank everyone for every laugh we got. We were really happy. This is the first screening, so it's like, wow, they're laughing.
Well, I have to say this is one of the most touching things I've seen in a long time, and I'm not just being completely phony and patronizing. I actually was, which I can be at times, but right now I'm actually really being serious that it's all I could do to really not get too emotional with it. It was just beautiful. It was so important, so wonderful. Yours. And the thing about Rodney was cool because it had this wonderful expansiveness with huge amounts of paint and the motorcycle riding. And they were also perfect time length, not too long. Much like this panel discussion, which I think we should maybe wrap up because everybody is eager to go to their expensive parties and fabulous whatever's. Oh, one more question. Yes?
Yeah, you mentioned the Troubles, and I've been to Northern Ireland, and it was pretty messed up for a while. I was only there a short while. Your painting clearly has a raw, sort of pained but beautiful quality about it. It really grew on me as I watched this film, and I was wondering if your current paintings reflecting our current troubles in this country.
That's a good question. I think that they probably do. What I think everything that happens in the world has an effect on us, not just this country, but other things affect the world and your own life, what's going on in your life, I don't know what you do. So yes, I think all of that's part of it.
So, any more questions? Are we okay? I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. How about a round of applause for these wonderful artists, wonderful filmmakers. And be sure to spread the word about this festival. Thanks to the festival for having me here, and please spread the word about these films and these artists. Thanks very much.